They say your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. Mine started that way. White dress, fresh flowers, my heart racing with excitement. And then I heard him laughing in the hallway. Not the warm, loving laugh I'd fallen for 3 years ago. This was different, cold, calculating, the kind of laugh that comes when someone thinks they've gotten away with something. I was standing in the sacristy of St. Peter's Church, adjusting my veil one last time, my grandmother's veil, passed down through 3 generations of Miller women. In a few minutes, I'd walk down that aisle and marry Alexander Sterling, the man I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. The door was slightly open. I heard voices, male voices, laughing. I should have walked away. I should have focused on my breathing, on my bouquet, on anything else. But I didn't. I moved closer to that door, and I listened. "Are you sure this is going to work out?" That was Julian, Alexander's best man. And then I heard my fiancé's voice. "Of course it is, buddy. Valentina is madly in love with me. After we get married, it'll only be a matter of time before I convince her to give me power over her father's businesses." I felt my legs go weak. My hand gripped the doorframe. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. "And if she suspects something?" another voice asked. "Dylan, probably." Alexander laughed again, that same cold laugh. "Valentina's too naive. She thinks I'm her Prince Charming. Once I get power of attorney, I'll sell some of her father's properties. The old man won't even notice. He's too busy with his companies to check every document he signs." My heart stopped. 3 years, 3 years of dates, of late-night conversations, of planning our future together. All of it, every single moment. A lie. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to breathe. The bouquet of white roses trembled in my hands. $15,000 for this dress, months of planning, my whole family waiting out there in the pews, and the man I was about to marry only wanted my father's money. But here's the thing they didn't know about me. I wasn't as naive as they thought, and I was about to prove it. Let me back up a little. Let me tell you how I got here. My name is Valentina Miller. I'm 26 years old. I grew up in Aspen, in a family that worked hard for everything we had. My father, Richard Miller, started with nothing. Absolutely nothing. He washed cars when he was 16, saved every penny. By the time he was 30, he owned his first gas station, then another, then another. Now he has 3 gas stations and 2 coffee shops in the city. Not a fortune by some standards, but comfortable, safe, built on honest work and long hours. My mother, Patricia, always wanted the best for me and my younger sister, Sophia. She wanted us to be happy, to find good men, to build families. I met Alexander 2 years ago at the mall. It seemed like fate. I was getting coffee in the food court when this handsome man bumped into me. My coffee went everywhere. He was so apologetic, so sweet. He bought me another coffee and we talked for 2 hours straight. He worked in accounting, he said. He was ambitious but kind. He loved his mother. He wanted a family someday. Everything about him seemed perfect. We started dating. He met my parents. They loved him immediately. My dad saw a hardworking young man. My mom saw a future son-in-law who would take care of her daughter. Alexander was always so interested in my father's business. He asked questions. He wanted to learn. My dad appreciated that. He thought Alexander had potential. "That boy's got a good head on his shoulders," my dad would say. "He understands business." I thought I was lucky. I thought I'd found someone who loved me for who I was. 6 months ago, Alexander proposed, down on one knee in the same food court where we met. It was romantic, thoughtful. I cried and said yes without hesitation. My parents threw us an engagement party. Alexander charmed everyone. He talked business with my dad. He complimented my mom's cooking. He played with my little cousins. Everyone said we were perfect together, and I believed them. We planned this wedding together, every detail: the church, the flowers, the reception at the Hacienda Royal Hotel, guest list of 250 people. My dad insisted on paying for everything. He wanted to give me the wedding of my dreams. My princess deserves the best, he said. Alexander seemed grateful, humble. He said we didn't need anything fancy, but he went along with whatever made me happy. I should have noticed the signs. The way he always steered conversations back to my father's assets, the way he asked about property values and business contracts, the way his eyes lit up when my dad mentioned expansion plans. But I didn't notice, or maybe I didn't want to notice. I was in love, and love makes you blind to things you should see. My sister, Sophia, was the only one who seemed unsure about Alexander. "I don't know, Val," she said once while we were shopping for bridesmaids' dresses. "There's something about him I can't put my finger on." "You're just being protective," I told her. "You'll love him once you get to know him better." She smiled, but I saw the doubt in her eyes. Sophia was studying law at the university. She was smart, sharp. She noticed things other people missed. But I brushed off her concerns. I was getting married to the man of my dreams. Nothing was going to ruin that. Until this morning. Until I stood in that sacristy and heard the truth.
"And the debts?" Julian asked through that cracked door. My hand froze on my veil. "Oh, those I'll pay off fast with her money," Alexander said, like it was nothing. "I owe almost $200,000 to some casino guys. They're getting impatient. But after today, problem solved." $200,000. Casino debts? I never knew Alexander gambled. He always said he worked late at the accounting office. He'd been lying about everything. "You think anyone suspects?" Dylan's voice sounded uncomfortable. "Richard trusts me completely, and Mrs. Patricia adores me. The father's smart, but he's so happy to see his daughter fulfilled that he doesn't suspect a thing." I closed my eyes. They were talking about my parents like they were marks in a con. "What if we just cancel this?" Julian said nervously. "There's still time." "Cancel? Are you crazy? I've been planning this for 2 years, since I found out Richard Miller is worth more than $5 million. His daughter is my ticket to that money." 2 years? He'd been planning this since before we even met. That day at the food court wasn't an accident. He'd targeted me, researched my family, calculated every move. The coffee spill, the charming apology, the 2-hour conversation. All of it was an act. "Guys, it's time," Dylan said. "The music's starting." "Ready? Let's pretend we're happy then." Their footsteps faded down the hallway. I stood there alone, listening to the wedding march begin to play. I looked at myself in the mirror, the dress that took months to choose, the veil that meant so much to my family, the makeup that took hours to perfect. All for a man who saw me as a business transaction. I could have run. I could have called it off right there. But something stopped me. If I canceled the wedding, Alexander would just move on to his next victim, some other woman, some other family. And my parents would be heartbroken, humiliated. All those guests, all that money spent. No, if Alexander wanted to play games, I could play too, but I'd play smarter. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. "Val, where are you? Everyone's waiting." I dried my tears, fixed my makeup, adjusted my veil, and I smiled at myself in the mirror. If Alexander wanted a naive, love-struck bride, that's exactly what he'd get. But he had no idea what was coming. I walked out of the sacristy with my head high. Guests turned to look at me, whispering about how beautiful I looked. My father waited at the entrance to the church. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. "My princess," he said, offering his arm. "You're beautiful." "Thanks, Dad." I took his arm and we started down the aisle. I saw familiar faces on both sides. My aunts, my cousins, childhood friends. On Alexander's side, there were far fewer people. His mother, Carmen, who'd always been cold to me, a few relatives, Julian and Dylan near the altar looking nervous, and Alexander, standing there in his tuxedo, smiling like he'd won the lottery. When we reached the altar, my dad kissed my forehead. "Take good care of her," he said to Alexander. "Always, Mr. Richard. She's the love of my life." I wanted to laugh, or scream, or both. Father Michael, who'd baptized me as a baby, began the ceremony. "We are gathered here to celebrate the union of Valentina and Alexander. Marriage is a sacred institution based on love, respect, and mutual honesty." Honesty? What a joke. "Alexander, do you accept Valentina as your wife? Do you promise to love and respect her, in joy and sadness, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, all the days of your life?" "I do," Alexander said, looking deeply into my eyes. Such a good actor. "Valentina, do you accept Alexander as your husband? Do you promise to love and respect him, in joy and sadness, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, all the days of your life?" I paused, just for a second. Alexander squeezed my hand. I saw tension behind his smile. "I do." Relief flooded his face. "Before we exchange rings, the couple has prepared personal vows," Father Michael announced. Alexander went first. "Valentina, when I met you that day at the mall, I knew my life had changed forever. You brought light and joy to my days. I promise to be the husband you deserve, to take care of you, to build our family with all the love in my heart." Some guests wiped their eyes. I smiled, but inside I was noting every lie. My turn. "Alexander, our relationship has taught me so much about trust, about giving your heart completely to someone. Today, in front of our family and friends, I want you to know that I see you truly. I know your dreams, your fears, your ambitions, and I promise to be by your side through every challenge we face together." I saw Julian and Dylan exchange glances. Alexander's hand got a little sweaty in mine. "Now we will exchange rings," Father Michael announced. Alexander slid the ring onto my finger. "With this ring, I marry you." I did the same. "With this ring, I marry you." The words tasted bitter. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Alexander, you may kiss your bride." He kissed me, the kiss I dreamed about for months. It felt empty, mechanical, fake. The guests applauded. Rose petals flew through the air. We walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, and I began planning my revenge. At the reception, I played my part perfectly. I smiled, I hugged guests, I thanked everyone for coming. Alexander worked the room, especially gravitating toward my father and his business associates. "I'd love to learn more about the expansion plans," I heard him say to my dad. "Maybe I could help with the new locations." My dad beamed. "I like your enthusiasm, son. We'll talk next week." During dinner, my father gave a speech. "Valentina has always been the light of our home. Alexander, you're gaining an incredible wife. And Valentina, you've chosen a good, hard-working man who clearly loves you." If he only knew. When Alexander gave his speech, he thanked my parents for welcoming him as a son and promised to spend the rest of his life making me smile. More lies. Beautiful, well-rehearsed lies. During our first dance, he whispered, "You're tense." "I'm just nervous," I lied back. "So many people watching." "Relax. Everything is perfect. Our life is beginning." Our life. Right. After dancing with my father, I danced with Julian. He looked terrified. "Julian, you seem nervous." "I'm not great at parties." "That's strange. You've always been extroverted." He avoided my eyes. "Julian," I said quietly, "you know things you're not telling me, don't you?" He actually stumbled. "What do you mean?" "I heard you, this morning, in the hallway outside the sacristy." His face went white. "You heard?" "Every word." He stopped dancing completely. "Valentina, please don't make a scene here. There are 200 people." "I'm not going to make a scene," I said calmly, "but I need to know something. How long has he been planning this?" Julian looked like he might be sick.
Since before you met, he researched your family. He knew your dad was successful. He engineered that meeting at the mall. Hearing it confirmed made it real in a horrible way. And his debts? They're bad, Valentina. Really bad. He owes money to dangerous people. How much? More than he told you. Way more. The song ended. Julian practically ran back to Alexander's side. I watched them whisper urgently. Alexander glanced at me with worry in his eyes. Good. Let him worry. My sister Sophia found me by the champagne table. Val, what's going on? Julian looks like he saw a ghost. I pulled her aside to a quiet corner. Sophia, I need your help, and I need you not to ask questions yet. That's not comforting. Can you access those legal databases at your university? She studied my face. What did you find out about him? Please, just trust me. I need you to look into Alexander's finances, his debts, his history.
Valentina, you're scaring me. Will you do it? She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but you have to tell me everything later. I promise. That night in our bridal suite, Alexander tried to kiss me. I pulled away gently. I'm exhausted, love. Can we just sleep tonight? His face darkened for a moment before he forced a smile. Sure, I understand. But I knew he didn't understand. He probably already was calculating how to speed up his access to my family's money. The next morning, he was cheerful again. What if we cancel the honeymoon? He suggested over breakfast. Your dad seems excited about teaching me the business. I don't want to lose this opportunity. He couldn't even wait 2 weeks. If that's what you want, I said. He kissed my forehead. I knew you'd understand. We're a team now. A team, sure. After breakfast, he left to pick up some things from his old apartment. The moment he was gone, I called Sophia. He just left. Can you come over? 30 minutes later, Sophia arrived with a folder. Val, I found a lot, and it's bad. Tell me. He owes way more than 200,000. Try 800,000. My stomach dropped. He's been fired from his job. He has loans with loan sharks. And here's the worst part. You're not his first target. What? He tried this same scam with at least 3 other families in the past 2 years. Always the same pattern. He pursues the daughter of a wealthy businessman, gets close to the family, tries to access their assets. I felt nauseous. In one case, the father found out just in time. In another, the bride got suspicious and called it off. You're the 3rd attempt, Val, and the first one where he actually made it to the altar. He's a professional con artist. Basically, yes. I stood up and paced. Then I need to catch him, with proof, enough proof that he can never do this to anyone else. How? I'm going to give him exactly what he wants, access to my family's money, but I'm going to make sure every move he makes is documented. That's dangerous. I know, but it's the only way. Over the next few days, I played the perfect wife. I transferred $50,000 to Alexander's account when he said he had some old debts to clear up. He almost cried with relief when he saw the money. I suggested to my father that maybe Alexander could have access to some company documents so he can learn the business better. My dad was hesitant, but agreed. Alexander became more confident, more aggressive. What if your dad gave me power of attorney, just for small things, to speed up processes? Don't you think that's too soon? I asked innocently. I just really want to help Valentina. I called my father immediately. Dad, I think we need to set a trap. What kind of trap? Give him limited power of attorney, enough to make a transfer. Then we wait for the bait. My father was quiet for a moment. Valentina, this is risky. I know, but it's the only way to stop him permanently. 3 days later, I told Alexander that my father had agreed to give him power of attorney for certain company accounts. His eyes lit up. Really? Really? He trusts you. That afternoon, I told him we needed $100,000 to clear all our debts and start fresh. Can you transfer it from the company account? I asked. Dad said it would be easier that way. Alexander hesitated for just a moment. Then he smiled. Of course, I'll do it this afternoon.
Transfer it to your personal account first, then we'll distribute it from there. Perfect. I left the house and went to a coffee shop downtown. I couldn't be there when it happened. At 4 o'clock, my father called. He did it. Transferred $100,000 from the company account to his personal account. I have all the documentation. Call the police, Dad. An hour later, my phone rang again. The police arrested him at the office. He tried to deny it at first. Then he said you authorized it, but the proof was clear. Unauthorized use of power of attorney, embezzlement, fraud. I felt relief and sadness at the same time. What happens now? He'll face charges, could be years in prison.
2 days later, Julian and Dylan came to my apartment. "We want to testify against him," Julian said. "Tell everything we know." "Why?" "Because you showed courage we didn't have, and because it's the right thing to do." They spent 2 hours telling me everything. Alexander's previous scams, his gambling addiction, his debts to dangerous people. All of it recorded, ready for the trial. When they left, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not for Alexander, but for the version of him I'd believed in, for the future I'd imagined, for the innocence I'd lost. 3 weeks later, I visited him in jail. He looked terrible, thin, defeated. "Why did you come?" he asked. "To understand." "Understand what? You ruined me." "No, Alexander, you ruined yourself. I just gave you enough rope." He stared at me. "You knew from the beginning, didn't you? From the wedding day." "I heard you in the hallway before the ceremony." He laughed bitterly. "And you still went through with it." "Because I wanted proof, real proof that would stop you from hurting anyone else." "Congratulations, you won." This wasn't about winning, it was about protecting other women, other families. Did you ever really love me? I thought about it honestly. I loved the person you pretended to be, but that person never existed. 6 months later, Alexander was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Julian and Dylan testified. So did victims from his previous scams. I filed for divorce, went back to my maiden name. I redecorated my apartment, removing every trace of that chapter of my life. My sister Sophia graduated from law school. She started working at a firm that helps fraud victims. My father expanded his business, more cautious now, but also stronger for having survived. And me? I learned to trust my instincts, to see red flags I'd ignored before. 1 year later, I was back at that same mall food court when a well-dressed man accidentally bumped into me, spilling my coffee. "I'm so sorry," he said with a charming smile. "Let me buy you another one." I looked at him carefully, noticed the rehearsed smile, the expensive but slightly worn clothes, the way his eyes scanned the area. "No thanks," I said simply, and I walked away. I'd learned to recognize the signs. 3 years after that disastrous wedding, I met Martin. He was a veterinarian who took care of the pets belonging to my father's employees. Simple, honest, hardworking. He didn't have much money, but he had something Alexander never had: character. We got married in a small ceremony, just close family. I wore a simple dress. We bought our rings with money Martin had saved from working weekends. It wasn't the dream wedding I'd planned with Alexander. It was better. It was real. On our wedding night, Martin took my hands and said, "Valentina, I promise to always be honest with you, even when it's difficult, even when the truth hurts. And I promise to trust you, but also to never ignore warning signs again. Deal?" This time, I believed him, because this time, it was genuine. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Alexander was released after serving 2.5 years. He left town, tried to start over somewhere else. I hope he learned to be honest, but I know people like Alexander rarely change, and that's okay. He's not my problem anymore. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled it, if I should have just called off the wedding that morning. I don't think so. Because what I did wasn't just about me, it was about every woman he'd tried to scam before, and every woman he might have scammed after. I stopped him, permanently, with proof that will follow him forever. Was it risky? Yes. Was it a little bit of revenge? Maybe. But it was also justice. The bride who heard her groom's confession didn't run away crying. She didn't make a scene. She didn't let him win. She played the game better than he did. And in the end, she protected not just herself, but everyone who came after. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where someone is using you, remember this: you're stronger than you think, you're smarter than they assume, and you have more power than they realize. Trust your instincts, document everything, and never let anyone make you feel like you're too naive to see the truth. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't screaming or crying, it's staying calm, staying smart, and making sure they face the consequences of their own choices. That's my story. The wedding that almost destroyed me became the moment I discovered my own strength, and I wouldn't change a thing. If this story touched your heart or made you think twice about trusting too easily, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. I read every single one. And if you want more real stories about strength, courage, and standing up for yourself, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for listening to my story.